This is Tom Watson with AMI, and this is our annual user summit. I appreciate everybody's attendance today. Quick kind of kickoff. There's a Q&A tool at the bottom of your Zoom thing. You guys have probably done this before. Please submit any questions that you have via that panel, and we've got somebody watching that. We're going to stop a few times and address the questions that come in. But anyway, use that tool. We're going to submit or post up 3 polls during the webinar. Just a quick little multiple choice, just to get some feedback from the crowd. And this is being recorded. We're not going to share anything shared by customers or anything. But we are recording this. But we will trim out all the customer stories and any questions or any kind of input before we'd share anything. The only thing that we would share is me giving demos of our product and that sort of thing. But just disclosure, we are recording, but nothing that you say will be held against you on Twitter or whatever. I want to just introduce kind of who's here on the call with us. This is the AMI development, the AMI AssetTrack team. We got all these folks are here listening in today, and you may know some of these folks. And we also have the AMI customer success teams. This is the frontline guys that you all probably know better, who you talk to on the phone that keep the solution up and running. And of course, myself. So real quick, just kind of first poll we wanted to launch today is just what's the most important thing you're hoping to hear about today? Let's give you just a few seconds. And all right, cool. So the AssetTrack for ServiceNow roadmap's primary key. We got the history tracking, customer stories seem to be the winners. Awesome. Thank you very much for that feedback. We're going to cover a lot of that stuff today. I know most of you. My name is Tom Watson. Founded the company a long time ago, and I've interfaced with most of y'all, and I'll be kind of your MC today and talking about the roadmap and demos, etc. Our agenda today, we're going to start off with some customer stories. We've got Sherry Oldham, Rich Agron from the state of Utah, AssetTrack for ServiceNow customers that are going to show some stuff they're doing with lifecycle history tracking, signatures, and some other use cases they've implemented. We also have Judy Yowitz from AIG, who's going to talk about the remote user self-certification solution that she's implementing using AssetTrack for ServiceNow. We're going to do about 10 minutes on each of those. We'll take a few questions, but try to get through that stuff in the first 10, 20 minutes. And then I'll go into what's new in AssetTrack. I'll cover some of those features like the user self-certification, lifecycle history, and some of the time tracking stuff that we have built into it. Talk about our advanced auditing capabilities, kind of the Auditing V2 that we've come out with recently. And then I'm going to bring in Mike Loria with Resource Partners to talk about AssetTrack Pro. Those are AssetTrack powered managed services that customers can subscribe to now to be able to outsource hardware asset depot services, but still have the real-time data that you get from AssetTrack for ServiceNow. Then I'm going to get into the roadmap. We've got 2 primary. We've got AssetTrack in Azure. That's our standalone solution. For our CAHP customers, we're going to talk about planned integrations into the future, as well as standalone customers that use us as a standalone system. And then, of course, the AssetTrack for ServiceNow roadmap. And I'm going to touch on the alignment between AssetTrack for ServiceNow and HAM Pro and try to explain some of the differences there and how those things are complementary and address some of the market confusion that's out there about what HAM Pro is versus what's ServiceNow Asset Management versus what's AssetTrack for ServiceNow. And then we'll open it up and submit your questions, like I said, via the Q&A tool. But at the end, we'll open up some mics and we can get a discussion going. We should be out of here in an hour, hour and a half top. So that's the plan for today. What is your primary challenge in hardware asset management? All right, cool. Data accuracy, the clear winner. Process automation, compliance, managing change, also, and then remote user management. We got a handful of those as well. So cool. Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for participating in that. That's helpful. So what I'm going to talk about now is some of the new stuff. I'm going to give quick demos on these things. So the self-certification, lifecycle history analytic and time tracking, and enhanced auditing. Some of the new stuff that we're doing with auditing. I'm going to take you through this self-certification, this thing that Judy was just talking about. I've got an implementation of it here that I'd like to share. I'm going to start just by showing this AssetTrack dashboard that I've built using some key new features within AssetTrack here. And there's a number of different new features that are surfaced up on this AssetTrack dashboard. There's lots of pretty graphs and whatnot, but I want to start here, this overdue user certifications. So in my implementation of end user self-certification, this is a simple single score report of all the hardware asset records that have a user attestation date greater than 6 months. Judy, yours is a year. It's a simple report. I'm just querying, over 6 months. You could obviously change that to a year. But I got 740 records here that are overdue for user certification. And these are all those hardware records. This report is only including computers. And we're just saying, any attestation date, you can call the fields whatever you want. We're calling them attestation here, user certification works, it doesn't matter. But so these are all the overdue certifications. And the idea is that we would, using ServiceNow, set up an email notification that would run on a schedule and send these users a reminder. So now I'm going to switch and become one of these end users. So Allison Gillespie here, she's got 2 assets. So I'm going to impersonate Allison Gillespie. So Allison gets an email. One way to do it is to send them an email with a URL to the self-certification page. It's the same URL that everybody gets. So there's nothing difficult about delivering the link to all your end users to submit the self-certification. It's the same link. You don't have to write any scripting or any code or anything like that. We've enhanced AssetTrack so it can pull the logged in user and produce their, pull down their assigned assets. So I've just got that URL here on a self-service page in ServiceNow. Again, you can just send them the link. You could have them bookmark it or deliver the URL however you want. I just put it here as a link. So Allison logs in or clicks the link. Since she's logged into ServiceNow, this is a self-certification form. This is what we call URL launching here, where we went, you just click on the link, it automatically opens the self-certification form, and it enables them to certify. So Allison has to, in order to submit this stuff, they have to do an attestation on each asset. So they can click on each one and go, yeah, I've got this asset. And then, no, I don't have this. We also have a choice of I have, but I do not need this asset. And then, these fields are optional. AIG added even additional properties here. If they say they have the asset, they added some check boxes, which are new, where do you have a headset with it? Do you have a keyboard? Do you have a mouse headset? In this case, I'm just, trying to have them attest, do you have the thing or do you not have the thing? And then, I've never had this asset before. This is clearly a mistake. And this is just a text, comments journal field on the hardware table. So then that's it. She posts those up. She leaves, we close the form. So there's a couple new features in there that you may or may not know about. URL launching, where you can just have somebody click a link, have it open a specific form and run a query and have them submit. Auto close of that form so they can just do the transaction and get the UI out of the way. And then the self audit form, where you can pull that logged in user and trigger that query. So now I just end the impersonation. Allison's done. She's done her attestation. If we come back to the dashboard, then that single score, that overdue attestations report, she just attested to the 2, so they fall off that report. So pretty simple. We can get you set up with we got an update set that can put the self-attestation fields on ALM hardware. Like I mentioned, Judy at AIG, they did a separate table to store the attestations so that they could run some reporting over a single batch of attestations. So some flexibility there in how you want to implement it. But this is a pretty clean and easy way to go about that. All right, so the next thing I want to try to cruise through here is lifecycle history analytics with time tracking. So Sherry showed that they're using lifecycle history tracking. So the way that works is I'm going to pull up an asset here, my demo asset called Track Me. Track Me 001. So this is a hardware record, and I'm going to pull up this hardware record. We have added a hardware lifecycle history table to the AssetTrack application. You can decide, you can build your own lifecycle history table yourself and teach AssetTrack to record updates to it. We can provide you an update set that includes the hardware lifecycle history table. It's part of the AssetTrack scope, so you're not getting dinged by ServiceNow for a custom table because they're liking to charge money for that stuff now. But here for this Track Me asset, I can look at the entire lifecycle history. You can determine what fields you want to track in the history table, including any custom fields. You'll notice here I'm including the attestation. But here we can see the whole life cycle of the asset from when it was ordered to when it was received, deployed, certified, checked in. Here it's returned to the AssetTrack Pro depot, which I'm going to introduce Mike Loria here soon to talk about that. And then it was received at the depot, sanitized, and retired. So this is a way to get to record asset lifecycle history. We can add signatures to this, as Sherry showed you. And then another cool thing that we're doing is the ability to track durations between changes to fields. And an important one of that is state. So you'll see here that we're recording state duration as assets move through states in the life cycle. We can also do that for substate. We track the time between those states. So now I can get some cool utilization reports. Not just utilization, but utilization and stock levels and planning, vendor management. There's a lot of different things that come out of this. So this report here, the average state duration, it's just a simple ServiceNow report. You don't need performance analytics and all that complication to get this done. This is just averaging the average state duration over a period of time. So we're seeing here that my assets are sitting in use on average 260 days. They're sitting in stock for an average of 57 days. They're in transit for 19 hours, and they've been on order for I've got to fix that demo data here, but I received something within 1 minute after ordering it. But point is, you can now start to monitor how assets move through your life cycle and the time it takes for things to move through. This can be extended to tracking the duration of in maintenance for your maintenance vendors, for your disposal vendors, for the time that it takes things to go pending disposal to fully disposed. And this is going to help you really become a dashboard that help you determine if things are going wrong. Some of the key KPIs that our advanced asset management customers want to know is, are we turning things over? Are we carrying things in stock too long? Are our vendors delivering on the services in a timely manner and meeting their SLAs? So AssetTrack is enabling that now. And so this is available today, and it comes with your subscription, so you don't have to pay for it. We just need to help you implement it, and just let us know if you're. When we say advanced auditing, what Sherry and all of you have done is what we call ad hoc audits, where you define an audit form and you say, all right, I'm going to audit this stock room, and you choose your stock room and you run your search and it tells you what's there. Enhanced auditing enables you to define audits and track the performance of those audits over time, as well as to have multiple users perform those audits. So as like this stockroom audit, Southern California warehouse, I can launch that audit. I can also have another user join that audit. So as one user is scanning, I'm using a attached scanner on here, as my phone user here is using the scanner or using an RFID reader. Those updates are going to get pushed over to this user here. So you could send 5, 10, 20 people to do an audit collectively as a gang. Oops. So let me just, oops. So just real-time updating of, again, multiple people can perform the audit. We call that multi-user audit, and it really helps save time. Coming with that is stop and start. So you can have this audit running, and Jane could go in and scan a bunch of stuff, and she could leave, and then Joe could come in the next day. You don't have to save anything. It's all being saved in the background here, and you can come in the next day, rejoin that audit, pick up where you left off, and you know, just continue on. And so something that we're pretty excited about, that multi-user capability. The second thing there is that these audits are tracked, the instances of those audits are tracked over time in a way that you can roll up accuracy across multiple audits over time period. So what I have here is we've created one stockroom definition. We've created a stockroom computer audit definition, and within that we generated one sub definition for each one of our stockrooms. For each one of those stockroom definitions, we can then see all the instances that have occurred of that, and all those results are saved over time. Let me look at instances here and find one that's, so these are all the audit instances that have occurred. This is the percentage, the accuracy that was calculated for each one of those. Within any given audit, we store, within any audit definition, we store all of the assets that were audited, which auditors performed in it. In this case, there was one, but if there was multiple, you'd see all the users that collected the data. And then once the audit is completed, we then calculate the percentage accuracy. Now what I can get is a dashboard that shows me the accuracy of my data on average over time. And I've grouped those audits by different categories, so I can see that you know, we run data center audits every quarter, and our average accuracy is 94%. Should be better than 94, but you know, it's 94. Our stockrooms is down to 93. You can categorize and group audit definitions by whatever criteria you want. But what you can do as an asset manager is watch this, and then as your stockroom audits are processed, if you see this average accuracy starting to go down, now you can drill in and see a list of all the audits that have occurred. Here's that audit that's in flight right now that's still open. I can drill in there and get a list of, you know, what's happening. I can see who's performing it. So that's our advanced auditing and the dashboard capabilities that it brings. And just take your ad hoc auditing and really steps it up to a new level.
Couple questions. First question is, how do we ask for the update sets? Is there a list of updates available and what they contain? And then the second question is, can you get data by each auditor?
Yeah, so all of the data is tracked. So all of these instances are tracked. The audit assets, these are all the actual individual audits, and we can see, you know, you can group by scan by here. So this is all assets scanned are audited by each individual user. So in terms of how you ask for the update sets, contact support, we'll get those for you. We're publishing information on our help desk about these updates sets and what's contained within them. We've got them kind of all, we've got, well, I haven't gotten into sanitization yet here. The dashboards are also available via update sets. What we focus on is building the data and the reports, and then we assume our customers want to, you know, kind of compile their own dashboards, but we're more than happy to get you an update set that can include, can pull a dashboard and you can just modify it from there. Cool. Okay, thank you for those questions. So yeah, contact sales or support, raise a ticket in support. We'll get you directed to the update sets, and we'll provide free training and help to get it implemented. And it's not something that you got to pay additional money for. It's included in your subscription. All right. So we're about 50 minutes in. Okay, the next step here, another thing that's new is what we call AssetTrack Pro. And that's a partnership with a managed service provider, a depot provider called Resource Partners. And I've got Mike Loria on here to talk a little bit about it. And Mike and I have, I want to kind of call Mike Loria to the forefront here. And Mike, I want you to kind of help us, what is AssetTrack Pro?
Yeah, so it's really an enhanced version of AssetTrack that allows us to integrate with our clients and perform all of their services, all of the different hardware ITAM services that we perform, from the beginning to end of life cycle. It allows that to be tracked in real time through our facilities by way of integrating to AssetTrack.
Cool. How did the idea come about?
The idea came about originally because we were looking at how to leverage what it is that we did. So the heritage of the business was end of life for lease return and end of life for disposal or asset recovery. So, and that was, started in 2001. But as we grew out of that startup and into the next phases, we realized that, the average value of equipments and how the business was running was going to get more complex in the future as those values went down. And it took us quite a while to get to a point with our clients where we were able to talk to them about where else they may be looking for value. And really I'd say that started to get more entrenched in 2013, 2014, somewhere around there, as ServiceNow got more serious with the asset management piece. And then, it was really kind of selfishly, Tom and I met at a conference several years ago, and we kind of got pushed into the corner of, well, there's a couple of hardware asset management guys over there, and the rest of the environment was all talking about software. So it gave us a lot of time to sit and share war stories about what we were seeing. And so selfishly, I looked at AssetTrack as an internal tool that we could use just to improve our processes for deploying new hardware and retiring and disposing of old hardware. But then realized that, maybe we can connect this into the customer instance and then really get in there and open up a much more transparent version of not just AssetTrack, but of what most people are doing with their asset management programs, because we're able to give you full visibility to SLAs, to exposure areas of risk. So, for example, items that aren't yet where the data has not been scrubbed yet, and then really keep it as honest as possible and give you a better look at the SLAs. Which, what we noticed is that there's a lot of chaos in asset management, a lot of headaches. And that looking for ways to automate in there, isn't exactly easy, but we think that we've found something that works well if customers are in need of the services that we provide.
So what makes Resource Partners different from other depot providers? I mean, I think you covered it here, but to get you to repeat.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the big things, right? It's the real-time reporting. So I always like to give the real simple example of, requests just come direct to us. So as a user's request gets approved for, let's say, a new piece of hardware or to dispose a piece of hardware, that's done in AssetTrack, and it travels right through, notifies our account team, and really gives us, a great starting point, because we start with some leverage over doing our best to be efficient with the logistics.
Cool.
It also is that transparency piece. We like to think of ourselves too, that differentiate, final thing that differentiates us is we like to think of ourselves as innovative and caring, obviously, but we want to remain at a size where we can maintain this flexibility, because we see so much discrepancy in the processes that are between different clients, and it's almost always, mainly culturally based in how they treat the different processes. So, we want to maintain, as we've grown, we've been conscious of, maintaining some of that flexibility, or as much of that flexibility as possible. And this tool has really allowed that. It doesn't lock us into one program. It allows us to really leverage global partners for services, elsewhere, and keep the process really clean and aligned with what you see in all the different regions.
What types of clients are you working with AssetTrack Pro?
Most of them are 5,000 or more employees. Let's say global enterprises for the most part. I'd say I'm most excited about the ones that are doing some cool, innovative automation stuff, and some of that's kind of been triggered by what the last 9 months have held. We have a couple of clients that really impressed me during the initial lockdown, in that, and we really got to stress and test the system out, in that they were able to keep operations rolling and simply make some changes to redirect assets, to have us redirect assets direct to end users, and then come up with solutions for how we're going to go about retrieving the assets that have been disposed. And so, we sort of took the chaos, or coronavirus took the chaos, and just, raised it to a whole nother exponential level, right? It just is that many more assets spread out that much. So, we work with customers that, have the 9-month-old version of that problem, and today's version of that problem.
Cool. Well, thank you. What I really liked about Resource Partners was the innovative mindset, and kind of marrying putting the chocolate and peanut butter together of AssetTrack software and the automation it brings for hardware asset managers trying to track and manage stuff themselves, putting that in the hands of experts that process and manage physical hardware, and providing that real-time visibility back. And it's that move towards hardware as a service, where organizations can stop worrying about managing hardware and maintaining stock rooms and imaging and receiving, and be able to outsource that without losing any visibility or control. There's no way for Resource Partners to game the system. I was always kind of amazed that, you'd send a bunch of gear to be processed end of life to a disposal vendor, and then you'd get a spreadsheet back. And, a spreadsheet is a spreadsheet's a spreadsheet. Like, how did that get generated? So I can take a kind of just a real quick, one more demo here through what that process looks like here.
I think, Tom, just to add to that too, I think the problem with the spreadsheet is that that's generally where the conversation stops, because there's only a couple of ways that goes, right? Is that someone dives deep and makes an interpretation of the data and sorts it out, or it's generally, what we were seeing is it's too much to consume. And while many of our clients have good scenarios for good process for uploading that information and trying to reconcile it, it's not really value add time. And we noticed the amount of time that our account teams were supporting our clients on, just chasing individual serial numbers around. So, the beauty of this that everyone's going to see is the ability to look in a dashboard and go, okay, that's how much exposure I have today. That's how much risk I have. That doesn't look good. Those have been sitting there for 14 days. What's going on?
Yeah.
Let's get with Resource Partners, because they're not that this would ever happen, but for this fake example, we were out of SLA.
Yeah. So, for an AssetTrack customer that's using the Depot services, you can now, this demo here is, an AssetTrack Pro customer requesting return of Depot equipment. So here I'm scanning a license plate lot number, which is a way for you could put a barcode on a pallet of equipment so that you could track the lot through its life cycle. You can then indicate what stockroom and ServiceNow you're going to pick up the asset, and then scan the equipment that you're going to put on the pending return. I'm posting that up, and now with the AssetTrack Pro dashboard, should give that a second to process. Here's a Depot services status report, so I can see those assets that are pending return. So now when the Depot vendor receives the equipment, so switch devices in your mind here. Now that Mike's staff at Resource Partners is receiving that equipment, they're going to scan that lot code, just like an audit. They pull up those audited assets, and they're going to receive those at the facility. So they've got that AssetTrack validation of what's being, of what's expected and what's being received. And I can see here, one fell off the truck. So, they do that physical check-in with AssetTrack. They've got to, put in their stockroom, of course, data validation in force. So when they receive that stuff at their facility, this is connected to your instance here. So there's no, so you'll be able to see those assets move through the workflow. Those things are then moved into a pending sanitization state. When those assets are sanitized by the sanitization tools, they move to a sanitized state. And we're recording the sanitization information for this asset in a sanitizations table. In this case, we've got customers that actually sanitize equipment more than once. Sometimes they send it back, it's sanitized, puts back on the shelf, they redeploy it, and then later they send it back, and then it's EOL'd. We're able to track the sanitization information. The customer can then navigate to the sanitization lot, download the certificate. So they've got that physical, they've got that PDF disposal certificate. But again, the beauty of that is, we're providing all the documentation and all the information you need for compliance, but giving you a real-time dashboard of exactly where the assets are in the depot workflow. So you can outsource the services. You don't outsource any of the visibility and control. No more spreadsheets. And then, if things are overdue, they show up on a, exceptions report, or if things fall off that truck, you can surface those as dashboards, create notifications, and there's just no way for Resource Partners to ever get away with anything. So that's what I'm excited about, is that ability to outsource the work without losing control.
And I think, Tom, just to add that, it's a nice demo here. This is end of life. Certainly the on the new hardware, we were talking earlier about how our business has grown, or how we bring value. We started to find early on, when we got into selling new hardware and building out a depot to deliver new hardware, as much as we worry about assets that are retired not coming back, we were quite shocked and still kind of remain somewhat shocked at how inaccurate new orders are to a purchase order. So, the chaos starts there, and I just wanted to throw in there that
Sure.
we did this end of life version of the demo, but certainly we're catching, if we're providing you with new hardware, we're catching those discrepancies up front, and with the cost of new hardware, those certainly add up.
What it comes down to is that hardware moves through a life cycle at your organization, and whichever pieces of the life cycle you're tired of doing, you can move to a depot provider without losing any visibility or control. And Resource Partners is a hardware reseller. They'll receive your gear, stock it, image it, deploy it, any piece of this, and you can pick and choose. And yeah, I showed the end of the life there, where we're returning to the depot and receiving it, to show you that chain of custody and the documentation that applies at the front of the life cycle as well, in terms of receiving and purchasing, et cetera.
And it leads to our conversations, since AssetTrack Pro has been rolled out, have been more about customers that want to work on a redeploy program, and they want to change their life cycle, shorten it up a bit, but redeploy those assets to contractors for a remaining 2 years and stuff like that. Or donation programs have been one that's popped up and what that tells me is that people are getting the flexibility they need to do something interesting because the data is handled. Everyone mentioned data accuracy as such a key component, and accuracy is there, and hopefully we can simplify it too.
All right, cool. Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate your time. And
yeah, thanks, Sam.
Of course. I'm gonna talk about the dashboard here, but I also want to talk about kind of the ServiceNow, kind of how we're fitting into the ServiceNow landscape. There's some confusion around kind of what HAM Pro is, like what's AssetTrack versus HAM Pro versus just out of the box asset management. So I want to kind of address some of that real quick. So ITAM Paris and Quebec are, ServiceNow just asset management that you get, with your ITSM subscription, has the asset management database. It includes a mobile receiving app now that they built with the mobile studio. And then they, of course, you have the mobile studio. If you want to build your own app-based, camera scanning apps, you can do that yourself with your own development teams. AssetTrack for ServiceNow builds upon that. As you know, we're built upon ServiceNow's asset management and CMDB. And we bring the enterprise grade RFID and barcode, the RFID the fixed scanners, the RFID readers, laser scanners. We've got the full life cycle out of the box, the advanced auditing, the process control, the historical analytics, and the self-certification, all built on top of the asset management database. So, just today, that's what we've been enhancing what you can do. We're the control system that ensures the asset management data is accurate from the physical asset tracking perspective. What HAM Pro is bringing to the table is the normalization in the hardware library. So you can now, if you want to pay for it, you can subscribe to the model catalog, which will populate the model table that AssetTrack uses. It provides some back-end asset workflow tasks that AssetTrack can hook into so that, for example, as assets are swapped or assets are retired, with your flow designer, you can trigger the release of software titles, removal of assets from maintenance contracts, and one other automation that I'm forgetting about. But that's cool because, like we showed AssetTrack updating tasks, you can now have additional behavior triggered by AssetTrack. They're bringing a mobile inventory audit where you can do a verification using an app with a camera. Pretty simple audit capabilities. It's similar to some of the stuff we were doing years ago with AssetTrack of just kind of those simple ad hoc audits. But again, camera only, app-based, and requires developments to extend. And then they're adding some additional dashboards as well based on that hardware data, which will show you things like assets coming end of life, using that hardware library, end of life information that you can subscribe to. They're publishing some additional dashboards here that, again, one of the big ones is, what stuff do I have to refresh because of the stuff that's coming on end of life? So, this is the stuff you get for free. This is the stuff you get with AssetTrack. This is the stuff that if you want to pay for it, you get with HAM Pro. And we work very closely with the HAM Pro product team, Eric Farrington, Herman Betoit, and to ensure that we're building upon the same foundation that HAM Pro is. And it's not required. You don't need HAM Pro to run AssetTrack and so on. So hopefully that helps kind of just separate some of the, what it is and sort of where the overlaps are and how we all kind of work together. And what AMI is focusing on is that process control and analytics that, and of course the AssetTrack Pro integration with managed services to, really move asset management to that hardware as a service and delivering the controls that it, really help you ensure that you're optimizing your services and solution and cool.
Hey Tom, resource partners, we have really great pricing, I want to say, but you kind of flashed my picture up there as you were talking about for free, so you weren't implying I'm giving everything away for free.
No, that
right?
was yeah, no, that was a mistake.
I'm just teasing you.
But now that you mention it, Mike, AssetTrack Pro, one thing that's cool here is that, depot services is somewhat commodity in terms of the billing model. If you're a disposal, you pay per unit. And we're embedding AssetTrack into that service. So Mike can offer the same type of rates or, competitive pricing for depot services and includes AssetTrack to provide a better service. You don't pay more for it. You get more value because it's real-time data and reporting, but the pricing is, it's similar, it's market rate for those type of services. So I appreciate you bringing it up. No, we don't do it for free, but it's not, it doesn't cost more than your, depot services vendors that you're using today. It just includes that extra Ginsu knife of AssetTrack, which you can then leverage for your own asset tracking, et cetera.
Or if you're an existing AssetTrack user, you know, we work that pricing into asset service pricing.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. All right. So I want to get into the roadmap of where we're going. This thing is coming soon, the ITAM Control Dashboard. It's an analytics engine that will help you manage or measure your asset management KPIs over time. So here's just a couple examples of the types of dashboards you'll be able to record. We're working with one key partner or customer here that is really advanced in terms of the, they use Tableau, using AssetTrack Standalone and Tableau, they generate these asset lifecycle KPI reports. So, you know, what they're tracking here is that over a time period, what percentage of their assets are being received within 14 days. This one is what percentage of assets are being turned over out of stock within 45 days over a time period against a par level. So they've established that their par for turning over stock is 97%. 97% of their assets should be removed or turned over through stock within 45 days. And AssetTrack will record through using our lifecycle history data, will record those statistics over time. So this is showing you getting out of compliance over a period of time and then creeping back up and getting back above par in both of these cases. And this is just two. We're building an engine that will allow you to generate these types of dashboards throughout the entire life cycle, from ordering to stock levels to deployments to end of life. So we're pretty excited about that, and we're building an engine. It doesn't require the performance analytics license, so you know, ServiceNow wants to sell you more and more products. You don't have to buy additional products for that, or at least the performance analytics products. So this is coming. We're in development of this. This will be coming here in the next quarter. Our AssetTrack Standalone Roadmap for you non-ServiceNow customers out there. We're going to be bringing all the same analytics and dashboards that I've been showing you in the ServiceNow platform. And, you know, I know that we talk so much about ServiceNow that, you know, my CA and HP customers are always like, do you love us too? We do. ServiceNow has obviously been just kind of dominating the market, so it's had a lot of our attention. But the AssetTrack Standalone product, which we call AssetTrack Classic now, we're migrating it to Microsoft Azure. And we expect to release, be able to migrate our classic AssetTrack Classic customers to the Azure platform on AssetTrack in the end of Q1, probably Q2 of 2021. We're migrating things to Azure first. The next thing, we're attacking the management console. So we're working on that now, a web-based management console to get rid of the big WinForms interface that you all totally love. I know we've been dying to get rid of that. But you're going to see some mock-ups and some demo versions of a web-based management console within months. So stay tuned for kind of what that's going to look like. We are also implementing federated authentication, so you can tie into your Azure AD and multiple AD providers, your SSO, just a much more modern authentication framework built on the Azure platform. We'll be migrating our integration framework and moving to serverless infrastructure. So like our integration with CA, HP, files, the JavaScript, preprocessor and publisher capabilities that we have, we're moving that to Azure, again, to use serverless functions so that we get much greater scalability and resource usage. And that's where we'll be able to do better job scheduling, Delta imports, much more flexible integration with other systems so that, you know, we don't have to do that nightly sync where we take, you know, 2 million records out of HP and dump them into AssetTrack over a course of 3 hours. We will be able to set up Delta imports that are, you know, much more frequent. So that'll be part of that initial release. And then we're going to be taking our Save Search and enhancing it to provide charts and some more flexibility in terms of our reporting capabilities. And then through all this, the process control dashboards and analytics that we're building in ServiceNow, we'll be bringing those to the standalone product as well. So again, stay tuned. We're targeting Q1 for beta versions of this stuff. You know, our plan is to move our key CA and HP Asset Manager customers over first. We want to be doing that, you know, by March of next year, and then once we're moved over to that platform, we've got a longer term roadmap in terms of extending the schema. That'll come next, like where we can start to generate new tables instead of just adding custom fields. Be able to generate new tables and start to build other applications, and you know, get into like task management and other types of capabilities that we can do in the ServiceNow platform that we can't do today. I do see a question coming in here, and I can't see it. Why can I not see it? Can somebody read that?
Yeah, I can if you want.
How
So
about a standalone Windows client? I got it.
there you go.
You need to scan assets in a secure area where wireless devices are not allowed. So we do that today with our classic system, a standalone Windows client. We've doing this primarily with Android devices where you can run the client in an offline mode and with an integrated scanner. By Windows client, we're not building like a Windows app. We have the web-based client that we're going to ship with. We will build a Windows app. It'll be most likely an Electron or a Flutter app that would run on any platform, but you'd work in standalone mode and be on the network, go and go offline like you can do today, and go and scan and then upload later. You can do that now with a camera-based scan or an iPhone or an Android device with a paired Bluetooth scanner. For those super secure environments where they don't allow Bluetooth or cameras, you need an integrated, we've got like the Zebra Android devices. We are working with one client that's looking at a Windows-based tablet that has a scanner reader in it. So we will make sure to support it. We do have some key clients that are working in fully secure environments that have to have on-prem installations and totally disconnected scanning. I'm not saying that was like Windows was the expected operating system for that. Definitely Android, but as we build our new client, we will make sure that to address that regardless of the operating system that it's on. All right, thank you for that. Okay, last poll. What is the most valuable part of AssetTrack for you today? Let's share our results here. Fast data collection for field users and the process control for asset managers. I thought that the accurate hardware being the second one there. I'm interested in that. I mean, fast data collection for field users is definitely, you know, top of mind because you need your techs to participate and you got to give them fast tools to be able to get the data. One thing I'm surprised that only 4 people click process control, and maybe this wasn't quite obvious in the answer, but you know, one key thing that we find, the feedback that I get is that you can get people out of your hardware table, regardless of what system. You can block people from just making updates to hardware directly by forcing them to go through AssetTrack forms. You can control, you provide them an optimized way to get the data quickly, but you can validate the data, you can prevent them from submitting errors, and you can watch the data coming in and validate it and catch it before it pollutes your database. And that's what we mean by process control, that, you know, stay the heck out of my hardware table. Just use these forms so I can police what's coming into the database. And that's what leads to accurate hardware data in the ITAM CMDB, which is that, you know, result that we got there. But thank you again for participating. It's those things are fun. All right, so I mean, it's time. We're done sharing what we plan to share. If anybody has some questions, you can raise your hand or submit your question. We can open up the mic if you want to, talk. Just all right. Yeah, just to go over the questions that we had. So yeah, please, in terms of like how to get these update sets, contact support, raise a ticket in support. That's the best way to kind of do things for existing customers. You can also always contact sales. We're happy to, but the customer success team will hook you up. And in terms of getting the dashboards and getting all this stuff, just let us know you're interested in it, and we'll be happy to set you up with a customer success rep to go over how to get it going.